Let me say, in all seriousness, I met this man 9 months ago, of all places at the police academy, where he instructs. He does a lot of instruction to a lot of police officers, has done so for many a year. And I was sitting in his class back in December, and I was listening to his instruction, and I was very impressed. And it's just his stature, the way he presented himself, the knowledge. And then after instruction, you know, for the 2 days that I had that instruction with Mark as the instructor, we went out to lunch. We kind of met, went out to lunch, and he started talking. He knew exactly my past and, you know, my experience and my tenure at the Front Row Police Department. And we got to talking, and he had mentioned a lot of people had been coming up to him asking about whether he would consider running for sheriff of Warren County. And he, you know, he wasn't sure. He pondered it. And he asked, you know, my advice on it based on my experience of when I ran and so forth, and I was more than happy to give him that experience, or those, that advice of that experience. But the more he talked, and the more I got to know this man in the last 9 months, the more I realized I fell in love with the ideas, the passion that he has for this community. And with the experience that he has and the multitude of resources that he's been able to work with in his own career of over almost 25 years in law enforcement, it just excites me to no end what he can do for this county as our new sheriff. So I'm humbled, I'm honored to introduce this man. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Mark Butler.
First of all, thank y'all for coming tonight. I don't use the microphone because y'all heard me earlier and I'm horrible with it. Everybody coming out tonight to kick off what we decided to do a sheriff campaign is the biggest honor I think I could ever have in my life. And I am nervous as all get out. I did get approached to run for sheriff about a year ago. And I was like, I don't think I'm really quite the sheriff type. I'm just a police officer. Then I started looking more into it and talking to Robbie. We started exploring the idea. I talked to Jeff, talked to Chief Furr, Rick Steele, so many other law enforcement entities and officers who really have mentored my career, Officer Mern, and between all of them, I think in this room is probably 200-300 years of experience. And when they come up and say, hey, you know what, I think you could do it. That is the biggest honor a police officer could ever have, because the sheriff is the pinnacle. To be the sheriff, that means your community trusts you. That means your community believes in you and believes that when they shut their lights off, lock the door, that they have faith that you are going to protect them so they can sleep good at night. We have great deputies in Warren County. I've trained a lot of them. I've trained a lot of the Front Row Police Department. I started a business 6 years ago because on my part-time, I wanted to help. I wanted to show officers what experiences I had gotten. 9/11 changed my life. And I know many of you can remember and tell what you were doing on the day of 9/11. It hit me as hard as any brick could hit anybody. From that day on, I swore to myself that I would do everything in my power to stop it from ever happening again. And I started searching after organized crime, and I started teaching myself and getting with people like Doug Comfort and so many other great officers that were trying to do the same thing. That route took me to many different places. Some places my wife has no clue. Thank God. But it has really humbled me over the years to realize that you cannot be an expert in law enforcement. You never can be an expert in law enforcement. So anybody that sits there and says, I'm an expert, you probably should walk away from it. You can be proficient, at your field. But there are so many other things. And that is why I have these individuals, and I reached out to these individuals with so much knowledge, because they hold my feet to the fire on every decision, from the shoes I wear, Mr. Steele, right? But to the vest that I'm wearing, or some people wish I wasn't wearing tonight. But with that being said, I respect that, and I will hear that, and I will listen to that. My goal for Warren County, there is three things that a sheriff must do. The sheriff must always protect and serve the people of Warren County. The sheriff must enforce the laws that we have all voted on to live by. Most of all, the sheriff must protect you of your constitutional rights. After that, how you go about doing that, that's what makes a great sheriff and a not so great sheriff. You can't do any of those things without morals, integrity, ethics, and honor. I've coached in this community for many, many years. I've made a lot of parents mad, many, many years. But there's not a single parent that I've ever coached that couldn't say that I wouldn't give you the shirt off my back. There's not a single player that I wouldn't give the shirt off my back to. But to be up here tonight, it is truly an honor. And I think if we work together as a community, we can span the gap between law enforcement, which is getting derailed every single day. We have a ton of law enforcement in this room. We go out to the street, we go to a call, and we are literally looked at as the enemy. That's because we don't do proper community policing. We do statistical, political policing. My job is not to harass and mess with you. My job is to protect and serve. And somewhere along the line, law enforcement lost the idea that they weren't servants of the community. But that's what we truly are. And when you raise your hand and you swear to an oath that you will do that, it should mean something to you. And I think we've lost it somewhere along the line. Well, I'm telling you, that I promise you I will bring back. If you are driving down the road and you see a deputy behind you, I don't want you to be afraid. I want you to wave to him. You don't see that anymore. You do. Because Myrna and I are actually very fortunate. We work a lot of community policing. And we get so much information just from being true community policing. And I promise you, if the people trust in us, and we can gain their trust, we can eliminate most of the criminal activity that happens in Warren County. The one thing that I promise I will go after, I can't promise I can end it, but I promise this: I will exhaust every single effort and energy I have to remove heroin from our streets. Period. The one thing police do across the country, and I teach undercover and surveillance all over, and I'm very proud of that class. We go after, it's called statistical. They need stats. So they'll go out and they'll get the lowest level. And they always start at the tail of the snake. Well, what happens if you cut off the tail of a snake? It slithers away. If you grab a hold of the tail of the snake long enough and you play with it long enough, what's it do? It comes around and bites you. You have got to get control of the snake, grab the tail, and cut its head off. Well, heroin's not growing in the Appalachian Mountains. I promise you that. So how's it getting here? If you look at the numbers that we have in our jail, all nonviolent individuals that are addicted to heroin or some sort of drugs, they're just, all we're doing is grabbing the tail and cutting the tail off. I want to put our deputies in force to remove it. I am not going to tell you my plans of how I'm going to do it, and I'm not putting it out there. But if anyone sits there and tells you that all they're going to do is grab the tail of the snake, then you probably shouldn't go out. You probably should not elect that person, because all you're going to get is status quo. And that's what we've been doing since '83, when Nancy Reagan said, just say no. We have not done anything to remove the drugs. So let's go remove it. The only way we can do that is to work with the community. I have got to get the community to trust me and my department. Not a single deputy will ever lose their job in Warren County Sheriff's Office because they voted for someone else or because they did something. If they have honor, integrity, and courage, they have a job. They violate the law, they will be accounted for, and they will probably be removed. The Sheriff's Office must set the standard. We are the leader. We are the leaders of Warren County, and we are the mentors. The police, sheriff, fire. We will work together. We will work to build a true community policing. Not this nonsense we've been doing for the last 20 years. So with that being said, I need your help. I need everybody in this room's help. I thank you for coming, but I still need your help. I'm not going to ask you for money. I'm going to ask you to give me votes. If you give me the votes, I guarantee you no one will work harder for you. No one will be more humble for you than I will. That being said, thank you and enjoy your night.
Unlike you, I needed a microphone. Well, I tell you, I don't know what all of you think, but that's what I've been hearing for the last 9 months. And one thing I pegged, Mark talked about the fight, the combat on the heroin epidemic. I actually sit on the Warren Coalition as a member, and of course we have a subcommittee of the Warren Coalition that looks into a collaborative group that looks into that issue, the heroin and opioid issues plaguing not only our county, but plaguing every city, town, county in this country. I mean, it's an epidemic. It's got the epidemic proportions. So I've been hearing that message day in and day out. So much so that when I put a little feedback on this event on my social page, Facebook page, I said, listening to that and the message that this man brings as our future sheriff, he is definitely going to be our hero in the word heroin. So Mark, thank you for coming up, making yourself known, and we're going to go for a heck of a ride down this road to get you elected as our new sheriff of Warren County. Everybody, let's give him a hand again.